Heck yeah.
It is one of the lamest jokes I've ever heard, but it's so lame that it went like past lame, full circle back around to totally awesome.
I hope Dante would appreciate.
I think he would.
Appreciate the Dante.
Given his sense of humor, which we will talk about a lot today, yeah, I'd say he'd enjoy it. It'd be a fair bet.
I hope.
So welcome to Behind the Hype, week 2 of Joe Dante month. We got a lot of Dante coming at you. Chewy and I even, for our new segment, even watched yet another Joe Dante movie. Lots of Joe Dante today. The movie of the week is Gremlins 2,
Electric Boogaloo.
Or, do either one of you know the subtitle? It's
The New Batch.
There it is!
Yeah, the new batch.
I was like, did either one of you pay attention to the subtitle? Because I don't think it's actually in the opening credits.
No, but it's on the VHS box set. Or the box.
You watch this on VHS?
No, but I remember seeing the box for it.
Oh, okay. I was going to be very impressed if you're like, I'm going all the way back. I'm going to watch this as if it came out today.
Yeah, no, I did. I totally did.
The cover art always made me think of that one comedian, the old guy that played God a lot. He always smoked
George
this
Carlin?
big cigar.
No.
Glasses. No, he's not George Carlin.
I just heard old comedian and God, and I just immediately went to George Carlin.
No.
I got it. I'll look it up while we stall.
You remember who that guy is?
While we stall.
George Burns.
George Burns.
See, how could you forget George Burns?
I'm going to take out my horrible singing and put in the actual thing. Maybe, probably not. But George Burns, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it works. So I suppose we should probably get started, right?
Yeah,
We
sure.
should just start talking about Gremlins 2, or we can
Let's dive right into the Dante, all right?
We'll dive right into the Dante with our new segment. You might remember classic listeners, or whatever we're going to call the people who were listening before it became Behind the Hype. Our segment, Where Have You Been Doing? Where we go around the table and say things that we have been doing. And we're going to update that segment for our new show, Behind the Hype, to Where Have They Been Doing? Yeah, we try real hard over here. But it got a good laugh out of John when I told him, so we're keeping it.
I'm really hard to amuse.
Yeah, it's my perfect brand of, was that a joke? The Brian Way.
It's
so
the
where have they been
dot of
doing?
jokes.
Yeah, joke-ish. Joke adjacent is what we go for here. So for Where Have They Been Doing, we're going to try to dive into whatever filmmaker we've been covering for that month, into something that we don't have time to do a full episode on. So Chewy and I watched a movie. I'm not sure if John had time to get around to one, but we'll go first. We watched Small Soldiers.
Ooh.
It's one of those, most people, if they know Joe Dante, they either know him from Gremlins or Small Soldiers, at least in our demographic. Some people still might remember The Burbs, but for the most part, I think it's kind of these two. Very similar movies, if you think about it. Like small town America gets taken over by little tiny things that should be kind of cute and fun, but end up going on a murderous rampage. And both have Dick Miller in tiny parts.
And Robert Picardo.
Who's Robert Picardo in that?
He's the doctor
Oh, yeah.
from
And
Voyager.
who's also in Gremlins 2 today.
He's in Gremlins too, and and I just looked at his IMDb. He's also in Inner Space.
So he's another
So
Joe
he's
Dante guy.
definitely a Joe Dante guy.
He's a Joe Dante guy. Him, Dick Miller, the director from last week's Hollywood Boulevard, also pops up in Gremlins 2. Mm-hmm. Joe Dante kept his friends around.
He really did.
It does. He's not dead.
He's not.
He didn't keep his enemies closer, that's for sure.
But all in all, I like Small Soldiers. I don't think it's the best movie ever. I don't think it's... I won't even put it in his top 5, personally. But it's an entertaining little, like, hour and 45-minute thing.
It's a strange movie to me. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder if he saw Toy Story and went, you know what? I can run with that. I can Dante this.
Dante
It
this
has
up.
a lot of similarities.
Oh yeah, the whole like freezing whenever there's somebody else around.
Yeah.
That's the end of my list.
Well, being a little too into your programming.
Oh sure, yeah.
Learning
very
to
much
live
so. Yeah.
outside your programming. There's a little boy that helps the good guys, and I guess that's where it ends.
But there are
I just
similarities for sure, and it did come out after Toy Story, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
might
just
be one of the
remember.
reasons it suffered.
I just remember with that movie being blown away that it was switched. Like the cover had the soldiers, the army men, and I was like, oh, those are probably the good guys. And then watching the movie and being kind of surprised at the turn, because I was younger when I watched it, that the monster-looking ones were the good guys.
I was so excited for that damn movie that by the time it came out, I'd seen the trailer so many times somehow because the internet didn't exist. But I had known that they were the bad guys, or maybe I read it in something. Maybe because my dad knew I was into it, so he'd always save like Entertainment Weekly for me if there's a movie in there that I was excited for. So maybe like I saw that already, but
Oh, okay.
I went into it knowing they were the bad guys. I just remember being really excited for the war, yeah, because I was all over the trailer. And then like that moment comes in the movie, I'm like, yeah, it's here, and then it's over in like 30 seconds, and they go back to the school.
Another movie that it reminds. It's a match for me in my brain. It's a mashup of Toys and Toy Story.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of toys, as you
know
know,
you're not.
but it's.
I love toys.
I know. It's a boring slog of a
It
movie.
is not
It is
boring.
so
It is artsy as fuck. Okay.
painfully boring. It's like
I bet Joe Dante likes toys.
Joe Dante is not flawless. As we were talking.
Whatever.
Oh, there
love Joe
goes Dante as a listener. Oh,
I'll
damn.
I'll talk to Dante about how good Toys is someday, and we won't invite you.
It'd be so great if he's like, it's okay. I mean, it's kind of
Well,
boring.
we can at least talk to each other still about it, and still not invite you.
That's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, strange
John-
person who came up to me talking about toys. Yeah, it's a
Let's talk
slog.
about toys. Why?
Because the set dressing was amazing.
A very random day. John, did you have time to dive in any more Dante over the past week?
Unfortunately, no. The plan is still to do the Howling, though, so we can expect one for next time.
Perfect. So with that, let's dive into Gremlins 2. Gremlins. I've been watching a lot of videos of Muppets, and Constantine is just sneaking into my everyday conversation.
I will give you what you want.
What you want? You want a tasty cupcake? I'll give it to you. I fucking love that movie.
I mean, he's practically a gremlin himself.
Oh yeah, totally. So Gremlins 2. Who wants to do a breakdown really quick? I did last week for Hollywood Boulevard.
All right. Well,
Chewy's diving right in. Go for it.
for Gremlins,
Oh, no.
Gremlins 2,
I'm letting the wrong person do
Electric
this.
Boogaloo,
The new batch.
New batch.
This is great.
We're in New York. We're no longer in small town. I don't remember.
They say the name like 10 times in the movie.
Whatever. Billy and what's her name?
Phoebe Cates.
Kate. Billy Peltzer and Kate Berringer are currently working at not Nakatomi Plaza. They're working at this new high-end, advanced, AI-driven skyscraper in New York. And it's honestly, a lot of the tech in there ain't that much different than what we're using now. Just, they're very 80s versions of what we use now. And she's a tour guide, and he is in the art department. And then Gizmo shows up because they're destroying the old man's shop. And of course, Billy notices because he hears music and finds him in a lab, tries to take him out of the lab, leaves him in the office. I don't remember why. And then Gizmo gets water on him right before Kate has to pick him up and bring him home. And bad timing, Kate didn't like any of this. And she's proven right. Again, the woman is proven right about how this is a bad idea. And so all hell breaks loose. The gremlins just keep getting wet, and they keep making more of themselves. And it's just terrible. They take over the entire building. A lot of people probably die. We don't really see that happen.
A lot of gremlins die. We see that happen.
Yeah, a lot of gremlins die. The building guy tries to save the city, and he's fouled That's not a word.
What are you trying to say?
I can't think of the word. It doesn't work because of a storm. So then they decide to fry all the gremlins who are trying to get out into the city by using an electric gremlin, because all the gremlins turn into these really weird versions of themselves because they drank a bunch of genetic cocktails.
Yep.
And
Science, man.
And somehow by using the gremlin, who's supposed to have control of his own body in electric form, loses control of his electric body and just electrocutes all of his friends and dies at the same time for some reason, because he never comes back after that.
No, don't worry about it.
The
lady gremlin survives?
Yeah, the lady gremlin survives to sexually assault a human man.
He seemed into
the
it.
Doctor.
Not at first.
It was coercion. He was trapped. He couldn't get out.
Well, it was going to be a while. It was going to be a while before they got to him.
It's still rape.
So at the next cocktail party, he's like, I bet a good story would be like, fucked a gremlin once.
No. He's like, I was...
It's a Robin Williams joke. I don't take credit.
Did he actually say that?
That was about Coco the gorilla. It was...
Oh. Well, she kept him trapped.
Yes.
He had no recourse, and she could have tried to kill him. So
she's a gremlin.
It's not really a yes in that scenario.
Fair enough. We're not going to get into that one at all. We got into rape last week when it was very important to the movie. This is like an after-credit joke.
Yeah, I know.
So that's Gremlins 2.
I skipped over a lot.
You did, and I want to dive kind of right into the... Actually, the thing I want to talk about first is this movie took Chuck Jones out of retirement, which I think is really fucking cool. Especially given, like, last week we talked about how Joe Dante lists Chuck Jones as like one of his big influences and got him out of retirement for just like 2 things in this movie, and it's awesome. And it's the
I nearly did a spit take when I saw the opening with the Warner Brothers logo and Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck.
Yeah,
I thought I was watching the wrong movie.
It's one of those, like, I kind of assumed when I finally rewatched this thing not that long ago for the first time since I was a kid. I think we watched it. It was over Christmas, right?
Yes.
For the first time? Yeah.
After Christmas.
Over our Christmas trip, we watched it. And for some reason, I had just kind of assumed they would have lopped the head off of this thing when it made the transition to digital. Like, that was just like a VHS thing. Kind of like when you go to watch the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it almost feels weird to not have a Pizza Hut commercial in the front of it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, like, that was the kind of same thing here. I assumed it would be like this, but kind of like what John was saying, like, oh, it's still here. Oh, this is just wonderful.
It is interesting because it doesn't tie into the movie at all.
No, not even a little bit.
So it's really just there to enjoy having a Looney Tunes moment at the beginning of a Gremlins movie.
Well, it did come out it was released on the same day as the anniversary of Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
So, like, they timed that specifically. So, like, that's there as part of, like, an anniversary of Bugs Bunny.
Okay.
So, no, it has nothing to do with the movie, but it's there for a very specific reason. It's not just because, like, hey, look, we got to work with Chuck Jones, although I'm sure that was, like, 90% of it. But, John, you dug it too, right?
Yeah, no, I thought it was very interesting, especially in light of what we talked about in the previous movie, just his influences. And that seeing that Looney Tunes thing in the very beginning really won me over for the movie, just because it really got me into the mindset of a more cartoon, like expecting more of a cartoon, more cartoonish antics, just letting go and being a little bit zany. It really put me in a good place for this movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, the whole cartoon and zany nature of it, bouncing off what you're saying, it really comes down to this is very much... I'll venture to say this is the most Joe Dante movie we will cover this whole month. It is just, in my mind, pure, unfiltered Joe Dante. And it comes down to a lot of how he got to make the film, because they want him to make it like right away, because Gremlins was a huge hit. People loved it. They loved Gizmo. They thought the Gremlins were funny. They loved the whole hi-ho sequence from the first movie. They wanted a sequel. And Joe Dante is like, why? I made the movie. It's a great movie. Just enjoy the fucking movie. And then
watch it again.
Yeah, just watch it again. It's great. And he's right. It is great. But they basically just went, do whatever you want. Make the movie you want.
After years of pestering.
And because of that, he made what he considers the best Gremlins film. So if you're talking to Joe Dante, he would say 2 is better than 1. I'm not sure if I agree with him, depending on the day.
In the way of, again, a person who saw the first one way too young.
Yes.
The second one is definitely a comedy.
But
The first one is still scary.
But it's funny because the first one, they still tried to gear towards kids, and it's rated PG. The second one is PG-13, and they said they're going more for an adult crowd and being more violent and scary. But it's still more Joe Dante, and since Joe Dante has that whole influence of this cartoon Looney Tunes world, all of that comes in, and it's not very scary. It's just fun.
It's just fun, because it is like a Looney Tunes thing. If you ever tried to live-action Looney Tunes, they're freaking violent.
Yeah.
It would not be very child-friendly at all.
I saw Space
See
Jam.
Kung Fu
Super
Hustle.
violent.
So, yeah, the Gremlins in this movie are not any more violent than Looney Tunes actually are.
No, and the other thing about it with just Joe Dante, and I'm sure John caught on to a lot of this too, because this is very much his style, the movie's really willing to make fun of itself.
Oh, it's super meta.
Yeah. John, what did you think of that stuff?
Yeah, that also won me to it. I think it doesn't take much to win me, but meta tends to earn a lot of points with me, especially when it comes to Looney Tunesing up a thing. Just a movie being aware of itself, its tropes, and deciding, oh, to hell with it, let's just play with it, is, I mean, it helps because of that foundation that, hey, we've got a cartoon at the beginning of this, very brief, little gag. We have the end credits with the Looney Tunes gag. Like, this whole thing is going to be a very comic experience, a cartoonish experience. And yeah, no, I really like that. Especially, I think I liked it more than the first one. But it's hard to say because it's been a lot longer since I've seen the first one. The first one was very, for me, a lot more darkly comedic. This one felt more like cartoonish. Like, it's a shift. And I think the shift this way works best. Like, it's the best direction they could have taken it.
Yeah, and like the just kind of the jokes in general, I think just that whole, like, as we keep saying, like the more cartoon nature, like specifically it gets down to when they go to the science lab with the Gremlins. I think that's where they just really let the movie off the chain. And like, we have insane things like a vegetable gremlin. We have the bat gremlin that flies through the wall and leaves the Batman logo.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Another spit
gremlin.
take from me there.
Oh my god, it's so good. The talking gremlin, he is fucking funny the whole way through. He's funny. Like when he's having the conversation with, I forget the actor's name, but the Dracula, and he's like, what we want is civilization. Like, take
Robert
this.
Prosky.
Thank you. Take this gentleman here, and he shoots him. Now, was that civilized? No, I don't think so at all. It's just like, what point are you making, you lunatic?
Now, see here, we really want to.
I love that when he drinks the brain chemical, he freaks out, he ducks down, and he comes up with a pair of, like, very obvious glasses. Like, oh, here we are.
You see here, if you take a creature such as ours and you have them come in contact with genetic cocktails, they are going to something different.
You did pretty good. But it's just so damn funny. Like, it works so well. And I know there are plenty of people out there right now probably screaming at the radios that the movie just is insane and it doesn't work. But
how does it? It totally works.
Well, people think it's just stupid. It's just like you watch the Key and Peele sketch, which I've watched now many times. It actually only makes me like the movie a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But it's this whole sketch about like the Gremlins 2 pitch session where they basically go around the room just shouting out random gremlins, and that's in the movie. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fair. But at the same time, all of them are funny. So why is it a problem? If it works, it works. And the fact of the matter is that we have a movie that 2/3 of the way in completely just stops. Like, does a film rip and everything, as if the Gremlins got into your theater and ruined your own screening.
Oh god, I remember that.
Put on like an old school like 1930s softcore porn of like a bunch of women,
volleyball,
yeah,
or something.
Naked women playing volleyball. They go nudie, nudie, nudie. It's like, oh boy, Gremlins. And then it's only saved by Hulk Hogan sitting in the room like, hey, people pay good money to watch Gremlins 2, so go put it on or I'll come up there. It's like, what? What is this?
And then the
movie?
gremlins like grumble as they get the reel going again. Like,
Okay, I don't want to fight Hulk Hogan.
He's just gonna keep ripping his shirt off. This makes me uncomfortable.
Now I just watch the rest of the rest of the movie with no shirt on.
Yeah. Oh. And he's oiled up, of course. So
Well,
he's just gonna,
I think that's just his like morning routine. Like,
Yeah.
wakes up, brushes his teeth, starts putting the baby oil on. At least in the 80s. Now I don't know what he does.
Now
yeah, I mean,
he
probably
runs
while you're
into
brushing the teeth, you have to put the oil on, just to save time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so the only person in this movie that I feel isn't firing on all cylinders, and it's very unfortunate, happens to be Gizmo. If you're a Gizmo fan, Gremlins 1 is your movie. If you're not a huge Gizmo fan, you just like the idea of the Gremlins world, Gremlins 2 is more your speed. Because Gizmo in Gremlins 2 really doesn't do a lot.
He's mostly being tortured the whole movie.
Yeah, he dances with the two dudes from Terminator 2 and Christopher Lee, which we haven't talked about yet. We will. Trust me. And then he's tortured by Spike for about an hour. And then he does his Rambo thing.
Yeah, he's left on the train tracks.
Yeah.
And he figures out how to be Rambo.
He has a little training montage, which is
Yeah.
kind of cute. But, like, all in all, like, if you really love Gizmo and want Gizmo moments, number one's your movie.
If anything, this is just like... This is a good allegory for what it's like to have a teenager all of a sudden. And for those teenagers to not respect their parent at all.
They really hate their dad.
They're really mean to their dad. Like, I've never understood. Like, why are you so mean to your dad, guys?
Because Gizmo doesn't want to be a gremlin.
Gizmo doesn't want to be a dad.
No, he doesn't.
Every time...
He is so fine with people murdering his children.
Gizmo is never consenting to his procreation.
Yeah, he set one of his kids on fire. Granted, it was a spider kid, and spider kids should die, but like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Brian got mad at me while we were watching this. I'm like, well, if Gizmo never turns into a gremlin, where did Gizmo start? Like, who is
Chicken and egg
Gizmo
situation,
parents?
man. Chicken and egg.
Yeah.
Who came first, the gremlin or the Gizmo?
Mogwai?
Mogwai?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a...
There's just like the weirdest version of Pokemon.
Sure.
Well, my theory is that after like so many times of gremlins coming into the world and wreaking havoc, one evolved into the Mogwai form. Not that answers the chicken and egg problem, but
No.
it works for me.
But my thing is more, the fact that the gremlins lose twice just really speaks to how stupid they are. Because they have the best way of like procreating and just overrunning anything. Now, we don't know what salt water would do to them. We only know fresh water. But assuming that salt water does the same thing, chuck one in the ocean. The world is theirs. Like, just theirs.
Yeah.
Well, they're pure chaos. They're not very aware of their surroundings.
But all they want is civilization. What you and I have. Civilization.
Yeah.
It's simple, really. It's simple.
Sounds like a classic evil person telling you something nice. Don't look over here. Yes, I want civilization.
And then he shoots a gremlin in the face. So
No, I didn't mean to do that. Don't.
He was making a point.
Yeah.
About civilized and how he's not civilized but wants to be civilized. The point was a little muddled when he shot the gremlin in the face, but before that he was doing pretty good.
They're just pure chaos.
Yeah. But in a really entertaining way.
Very entertaining.
The other thing in this one is the gremlins themselves that we haven't really talked that much about. Don't worry, we will get to Christopher Lee. I know he's in the movie and he must be spoken about. But, so when you look at the original Gremlins film, most of the gremlins, and I'm not trying to take a knock at the movie, look pretty samey. The design's pretty similar. They're all a green and brown-ish sort of thing with teeth and yada, yada, yada. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were making the sequel, they talked to the special effects supervisor, and he's like, I don't really want to make those puppets, because I don't just want to make 1,000 of the same puppet. And they said, well, then don't. Make whatever you want. And that's why each gremlin in this movie looks so distinctly different. And that's not just like when there's a mask, the mask looks a little bit different, or it looks pretty samey. But whenever they focus on one or another, they all have very distinct faces this time. They have different features. Even the Mogwai version that come out of Gizmo this time are completely different. They all look totally different. They're black and white as opposed to the brown and white. Mm-hmm. And I gotta applaud the amount of craftsmanship that just went into this film, because like the movie, if you're a fan of puppetry at all, this is
Oh
one
my
of the best
God.
showcases of it.
You're
and
agreed.
They spent a lot of time constructing these creatures.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how much technology-wise they transferred between this movie and Ninja Turtles, but I'm sure there was some.
Well,
Which is funny that you mentioned that because the intelligent gremlin reminded me a lot of Donatello when he's being like, "Oh yes, well, you see, it's doing like the
Except
same thing, the puppet
Donatello
movement."
is very lawful good, and this gremlin is very chaotic evil.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just like in terms of the puppetry and the mouth movement, it's just everything was so distinct with these puppets that I didn't remember them being that way from the first one, and I spent a long time watching this movie just staring at the gremlins, just even pausing every now and then, just being like marveling at the craftsmanship.
I can't do that still. I still get creeped out. It's a lifelong thing. When you see something that's scary as a child.
I get it.
Yeah.
I also saw Gremlins as a child, and it would freak me out when I'm going to bed because I was always kind of convinced, especially after watching Gremlins 2 and like the whole elevator sequence where Phoebe Cates has them like punching through the walls at her. That as I was sleeping, one was going to punch through the wall at me. But I loved the movie so much. It was like the only horror movie I could really get through. I know I've said that about a lot of movies, but this one is also on that list.
This isn't a horror movie.
No, but Gremlins kind of was. For kids, they're both horror movies. This one's just a lot more palatable.
Well, and for you, Chewy, it was a horror film.
Yeah,
so
you said
The first one.
yeah, first one.
Had you not seen this one before we watched it?
I think I had seen parts of it on TV.
Oh, okay.
But not really. No. The only part of this movie that I remembered from when I was younger was the intelligent one. And basically because he reminded me of that comedian guy.
Oh, okay. Well, not him singing New York, New York.
No, I never seen that before.
I fucking love that whole sequence. I love him singing the song. I love all the gremlins who got together with their big posters to make the female gremlin. Like, who had the time to make that? Like, gremlins are the most fascinating creatures. They are so committed to their bits.
We could really learn a thing or two from Gremlins.
Oh, yeah. They're nothing but chaos. But when they want to do something they think is funny, they are into it.
Dude, I will say, I really liked the gremlin who decided he was a secretary. Type. You want coffee?
I like the one down in the restaurant who decided he's a waiter. He's taking orders, just like, what are you guys doing? Oh, I would never want to hang out with them, but man, they're fun to watch. So let's kind of move a little bit into the actors of this thing. Then we'll talk a little bit more about Joe, and then we'll start moving to the end of this. But so a lot of people pop up in this one. There's a lot of Joe Dante regulars. We have Dick Miller here. We have, I forget his name because I don't have IMDb open in front of me, but the director from Hollywood Boulevard. He's the usher in the whole Hulk Hogan sequence. Pretty much all of his regulars pop up in one way or another. But then we have new people like Christopher Lee, who is
John Glover.
And John Glover. But I was going to say Sauron is in this movie. And it's so wonderful. I was looking up just kind of trivia about the movie. When
Count Dooku.
Or Count Dooku, sure. He's played many a famous role.
Yes.
We can keep going.
But his role, his name in this, Dr. Catheter.
Yeah, so good.
Amazing.
Very Joe Dante joke. But when he showed up on set, the first thing he did was apologize to Joe Dante for being in a horrible sequel to a different movie he had made. I just think that's very funny. But the thing in this movie with Christopher Lee is that, like, we get so used to Christopher Lee in these very, like, almost melodramatic sort of, like, evil man roles where he just has this, like, creepy, stoic nature about him, because that's just kind of who Christopher Lee is. You kind of forget he had excellent comedic timing.
I mean, he was just a classic actor.
Yeah. Very classic actor, but funny. Like, legitimately funny. Throughout the whole movie, every time he has a joke, I'm like, damn it. He's good.
Because he was playing it so deadpan. Be like, well, I'm an evil scientist. I don't have a moral compass.
There's no morals in science.
No. And
please hand me that Kleenex.
He just leaves all this sciencey stuff all over the place with abandon and no security at all.
Nope, not even close.
But then he has this arsenal of automatic weapons in a locker right next to all that stuff.
Just in case science ever gets out of control.
Yeah, his little hobby.
he was so much fun to watch in the scenes he was in, especially even with the two guys, the two twins, when they were like dancing around with Gizmo and all that. You could see him just off to the side being like aggravated, and I found that funny, and he just delivered like he was so commanding in that.
He didn't understand why Gizmo liked that song.
No, why would you waste time dancing? Like he's just one of those guys who just he never turned in a like subpar performance. Didn't matter what movie he was in, how ridiculous it was. Even fucking Clone Wars, like we go back to those Clone Wars, the prequel movies. Like, you go back to those, he's still selling the hell out of every scene he's in. The man didn't know how to half-ass it. And in a movie like Gremlins 2, where he plays the mad scientist who creates all these surprisingly very effective potions, he's still just fantastic in every scene. I love Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Or loved, I guess I should say.
I mean, I really loved it when he got the gremlin on the hand.
Yeah.
Again, don't ever reach in anywhere without looking.
No.
Always look when you reach into something.
Oh, always.
Always.
We have a handle in our back alley that is full of dead spiders, and I'm convinced that one of them will come back to life and bite me and turn me into a zombie. It's going to happen.
Turn you into a zombie?
Well, it's an undead spider. It came back to life.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
No.
That's how science works.
No.
Again, why all spider sons should die.
No, you need to drink the dead spider.
What does that have to do with zombies?
Because in the Gremlins movie, they have to drink all this stuff. They don't get... Well, the one gets injected.
Yeah. That's how he gets to fight sunlight, and then he ruins that real quick.
Yeah. Because for some reason he remembers the other guy.
Yeah.
Like, they have some weird genetic memory thing.
They do. There's a lot of stuff you can dive into with Gremlins that, like, maybe that animated series they announced for HBO Max might. I'm guessing probably won't. But they do have some sort of, like, memory, because they see Dick Miller and they're like, I thought we killed you yesterday.
I need to get you.
Poor Dick Miller.
Hey, he realized he's not crazy.
That was good. The person who will forever need very serious therapeutic help for the rest of her life is Kate, or Phoebe Cates. I really like Phoebe Cates, as I mentioned in some other episode we've done. I've always thought she was really good. It always kind of felt like it was her choice to stop acting, which is pretty cool. But I really liked her in both the Gremlins movies, especially this one because she gets to be funny. And that might be my funniest moment of the movie. We'll get to that at some point.
I think I know which one you're talking about, too.
But there's something to be said about, what the fuck is that? Well, Gizmo's here. Get him the fuck out of here.
He's not cute.
No Mogwais. This is a deal breaker, Billy. No fucking Mogwais. And she's 100% in the right.
I'm just like, just leave.
She should have left.
No, well, both her and Billy. Billy gets a hold of Gizmo.
Yeah.
Say you suddenly came down with the flu or had food poisoning. Just get out of the building right away.
It's his beautiful redheaded boss lady.
With a thick accent.
Very thick accent. She's phenomenal in this movie, by the way. What's her name again?
Bombshell.
She's beautiful and fucking hysterical throughout. Oh, she's so good in this movie. I'm forgetting her name. I'm looking it up.
Haviland Morris.
Thank you.
Her name was Marla Bloodstone.
So good. But yeah, Phoebe Cates, why she stayed with Billy after he said, well, Gizmo's here, doesn't make any sense to me. But we won't have a movie otherwise. No. So.
No, I mean, we're glad she stayed, being like as great as she is. But yeah, she should have left.
Absolutely. Who haven't we talked about? What human have we missed in this that needed?
Well, we didn't really talk about John Glover. His depiction of Daniel Clamp, the CEO owner of the building, and how I love how you kind of said that he's kind of set up to be like a villainy type person at first. Yeah, and then you realize, no, he's just kind of almost like a child.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the savant person who has a ton of money, came up with this bombastic idea for an AI-controlled building in the 80s, and just has a wide-eyed willingness to go along with whatever. It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, and he's just got such great energy in every scene. Like particularly when Billy and the doctor, because I'm forgetting his name now too, Forrester, I think it was.
Well, he's the security guy, Forrester.
Well, he was the doctor in Star Trek, which is why I call him Doctor.
Sorry.
You're the one who got it in my head. But when they show up to be like, hey, there's a fucking problem in the building. And he's like, well, yeah, I know. Clearly, I just got done killing one of these things. He's like, well, why don't you... the Forrester's like, well, why don't you ask him while he knows everything? Just look at his face.
Why do you know?
That's a good point, Bill. Why do you know so much? It's just like... He's just so wide-eyed and bushy-tailed throughout the whole movie. While people around him are dying, his building is fucking condemned by the end of this thing. And he's like, yeah, this is cool.
He might be like just the jolliest version of a psychopath ever.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by his, like, that character when I saw him, because I was expecting something completely different, especially with the logo of the Clamp logo, a vice grip around the flattened earth. It was like I had my eyes, like, kind of, or my mind set on a certain way, and to have him be so childlike, like you guys said, was a genuine surprise in this movie for me. Like, I sit up straight like, oh wow, they're doing this. This is kind of funny.
Yeah, he's definitely has a dark undertone in the way that he pre-made a video for the end of the world.
And it's the stupidest video, and he's just like tearing up, like, isn't that beautiful?
No, why did you make that?
Well, yeah, especially since, like, at the very beginning, you're introduced to him through a TV, similar to, like, how they did with, like, the guys in, like, Dark Knight, when they're like, there's that guy far away, evil, bad guy thing in a TV. It's just like, okay, he's gonna be one certain way, and no,
he's actually he's quite fun, and for how much his security people are like, stay away from Mr. Clamp. He's very important. He's like, get out of my way. Hi, who are you? You're Bill. Nice to meet you, Bill. Nice. What are you drawing? That looks cool. Get rid of those trees.
I get to use my secret exit. Oh my god!
He's just so excited. I love that Dick Miller just sees it and just sneaks in.
Yeah.
Go, Dick Miller.
That's a great secret exit.
It really was. It's very Batman.
You know, he's rich, has a big building.
Billionaires.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? So I guess we probably should talk a little bit about Billy. But Billy's just such a, even in the first movie, he's just such a bland character.
He's the entry point.
He is.
Entry points in these type of movies are usually not the most bombastic.
No, and I always kind of feel bad for Zach, because I think Zach was a good actor, but he was just not a great actor, and for some reason...
It looks like he's still acting a ton, though, just in schlucky horror films.
Well, then good for him. I mean, at least he kept a career going, because I always liked the guy, and I just never really noticed him in anything other than Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of had a thankless role of not, like, he had to play it a little bit more straight than pretty much in this movie than literally anyone else. Like, everyone else is so out there, and then you've got Billy, who's just, like, trying to keep up.
Yeah, he really just kind of serves like a narrative through line of like, all right, well, Billy's here, so this is where the plot is.
Yeah.
But as far as like goals or like growing or like that, like Billy doesn't really do a lot. Like he doesn't really earn a lot. He doesn't really lose a lot. Like the stakes are never very high for him beyond he might lose his pet that he already lost.
Or he might lose his girlfriend because
which he should lose.
He's not saying no to his female boss.
Yeah, which he should lose for both that and for the whole bringing a Mogwai home.
Yeah.
I love Gizmo, and I would love to have a pet Gizmo. I never would though, because rain. Or, our air is made of water. Like, who knows how much water there has to be? If it's foggy out, do you still get gremlins? Like, the rules are a little vague for me to ever want a pet Mogwai.
I mean, I guess we could get away with it in California more than other states.
I don't know. Sunday poured rain. We went to go see the circus, and there was fucking, like, a swimming pool for a parking lot.
My feet were really wet.
Mine were partially wet.
But then there was that 1 year where we had a huge drought and, like, there was no rain.
7 years.
That was, like, way more than 1 year. That would have been the good time to own a Mogwai.
Yeah.
Dare that stretch.
Yeah.
Hopefully they only live, like, 7 years.
Yeah. Well, no, we're left with the impression that Mogwais live a long time.
I think they're immortal.
Maybe.
I don't know why I think that.
Maybe Gizmo's God. That's how he gives sentiency and pre-knowledge to all of his offspring.
I mean, it tracks.
Yeah.
That theory definitely holds weight for me.
Yeah.
Well, and his offspring resent him and, try to take over.
He says.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
They try to...
Don't do that.
This all tracks.
Well,
So there
they
we go.
try
We
to
cracked
become gods
Gremlins-
themselves.
We cracked Gremlins 2. Gizmo is God. God is just sitting there going, MTV? HBO?
Rambo.
Rambo?
Rambo.
Rambo. Hashtag Gizmo is God.
I mean, he already knows what Rambo is before he's ever seen it.
Oh, yeah. As soon as he gets that remote, Rambo. He even knew which channel to go to for
Yeah.
Rambo.
Yeah. So he is pre-cognizant, or knowledge.
I think that's right.
I don't know.
You say precog. I
Me
just think of
speak well.
you say precog. I just think of Minority Report,
Yeah.
and what a good fucking movie Minority Report is. And why do people stop liking Minority Report? That was a great movie,
Because it doesn't feel like a Steven Spielberg movie.
but it's a Tom Cruise movie. He runs a lot in the future,
Running in the future.
and it's got
So-
the guy you like in it with the blonde hair and the piercing blue eyes. Who's also in all the Legends of Tomorrow show.
Oh. I can
Neil
Never. No.
Neil McDonough.
No.
Yes,
I never remember his
I think
name.
it's Neil McDonough. Sorry, John. You were saying. Why don't you go ahead while I look up if I'm right?
Yeah, while you're looking this up, I have kind of a disconnected anecdote because I'm looking at the IMDb page right now, and the two twins, Don Stanton and Dan Stanton, their characters are named Martin and Lewis. So I'm like, okay, here's another reference point. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, like those movies.
Oh.
And it's just like, okay, so he's pulling some of that goofball antics of that team up in the movie. So I just watched one called Artists and Models, and just the goofball antics. Like, I can see this as another inspiration point for Joe Dante in this movie. Just it's interesting catching some of these things as you think about it later.
Yeah, for sure. And my IMDb search turned out it was Neil McDonough. So, hooray!
Yay.
My memory is not completely failing yet.
But mine is.
Well, you're also fading. We're getting close to your bedtime, so we should probably move into the end of this. Do you think we've covered enough?
Let me see.
I think
We've already talked about Dick Miller. Did we talk anything about Grandpa Fred, the Dracula guy? He was, yeah.
That's kind of where I was on him. Like, I liked him a lot as a kid, but that's because he was a dude in Dracula makeup doing the news. And then as I got older, I realized that's all he is.
Yeah, he's not
Yep.
really that interesting.
And I didn't really find it that funny anymore. I feel like you could lose him entirely and the movie doesn't change, except for now it's like a couple of minutes shorter. And you'd lose the one interview sequence with the gremlin, which is arguably one of the best scenes in the movie, but didn't need the whole subplot of Dracula guy to get there.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Then
Then
not
yes,
saying
I
he did
think
a
we
bad
have.
job. He was fine in the movie. I just got nothing out of it.
No.
Yeah, so I said let's wrap this thing up. So we're gonna do funniest moments, and I can go first because I've already kind of mentioned mine. So if you remember the original Gremlins film, there is a moment that really just kind of grinds the whole movie to a fucking halt, and it's my least favorite part in the movie. A lot of people don't really like it. It is just so ridiculous and so soapy, and it's this whole segment of Phoebe Cates with the world burning around them, doing this very sad story about her dad got trapped in a chimney and broke his neck, and that's why she, while pretending to be Santa Claus, and that's why she doesn't celebrate Christmas anymore. It's a real bummer of a moment in a movie that's kind of lighthearted and fun, and also kind of scary, but shockingly dark moment. And in this movie, they decided to make fun of that, which I thought was phenomenal. And it just cracked me up because it just kind of made me go like, oh, everyone agreed that scene was a little too much of a... And they're talking about how like, we need to go back and fight. Like, did George Washington ever give up? No. Did Abraham Lincoln ever give up? No. And Phoebe Cates just stops the whole thing. She's like, don't say Lincoln to me. When I was a child and we were celebrating Lincoln's birthday, and like everyone just starts rolling their eyes, like you can almost see like Billy looking at his watch, and she like starts
We
getting,
don't have time for this, honey.
starts getting at his, honey, I'm sorry, we don't have time for this. She's like, but it was just so horrible, and then just leave the screen. Fucking great.
And yeah, it's just like she kept kind of injecting random words just to continue the story. Just like, okay, now I'm kind of curious about this story.
It's just such a good moment, especially if you're a fan of the first movie. Even if you do like that moment, it's still like you'll still go, yeah, I get why they made fun of it. It's a little heavy. That's it for me though. Cheer, what about you?
It's hard for me to pick a particular moment that was funnier than all the other moments for me. But the moments I really liked the secretary
Yes.
moment.
Type.
She's definitely dead, by the way. She never came back. He killed that secretary. She's somewhere under the desk. We just never looked there. And I also like how there was just a random another gremlin who decided to flash Phoebe Cates.
Yeah.
And then she kicks him in the balls.
Yeah, she didn't let him get away
It's
with
a
it
nice
this
little
time.
callback.
Yeah. And John?
So for me, like all those moments are really funny, and I have a hard time deciding the funniest moment. But the one that watching it stuck out to me the most, and I really enjoyed, was the melting and destruction of the gremlins at the very end. And I think it was just because the special effects were so icky and nasty and like wonderfully so. Like it was gleeful to watch just that whole destruction play out in that final act, and just to see them slop down. And it just, this movie had a very like, it knew how to play grossness for comedy and like icky sticky, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the end.
And just to throw one more thing on that pile, again, I love how committed Gremlins are to their bits. They're so committed that one dressed up like the Wicked Witch of the West when they were dying just to go, I'm melting.
What a world.
What a world.
Fucking love Gremlins, man. They are the best. Definitely don't want them in my town, but my God, are they funny.
Can we take them to a presidential rally?
Which president? You know the answer if you're at all.
All of them, honestly.
Yeah, at this point, might as well.
Whoever survives the
Whoever
gremlin
survived.
invasion.
Yeah. Let's take all the candidates and our standing president and put them in an escape room with gremlins and see who survives.
That's the new election process.
or no, wait. You set them all in a room with the Mogwai and set the sprinklers to go off maybe an hour after you step out of the room and lock it. And so they're like, okay, this is just a little Mogwai. Okay, let's tell them about our policy. And then, psh.
But then you just have a shit ton of Mogwais. You still have to feed them after midnight. You know, like that's just a lot of rules. It's got to be a gremlin.
Yeah.
Got to be a gremlin. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a tribble problem. It's like these tribbles can walk and know what Rambo is.
Oh, I mean, one of those presidential candidates brought a box of donuts. Or some food.
Yeah, it'll work out. It'll be great. All right, so that's Gremlins 2. I think we covered it. We've covered as much as we can. I would say let's just do a quick round the table. Do we recommend? I love the fuck out of this movie, so I obviously very, 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 very much recommend. But I also, with the caveat, highly recommend that you watch the first one before you watch this one, just because there is a lot of callbacks and references and whatnot.
I would say it's definitely recommended. I enjoyed it. I would almost do a double feature of this in Mario Brothers.
Ooh.
Okay.
2 movies of wow. Just wow.
I would argue this
Yeah.
movie
How far
is
did you go with this? How far?
significantly better than Mario Brothers,
How
but they would go well
far
together.
Can you go with this concept?
That is
You're
Mario
gonna
Brothers.
go. You're gonna go like 3 steps further than I thought you were gonna go.
That is Mario Brothers.
And Gremlins too.
Fair enough. Yeah, okay. I'll give it to you. It's fair. John, recommend?
Yes, definitely. And it's been a while since I've seen the first Gremlins, so I would even say that it still manages, despite the references, still managed to hold up. So if you
for
can't get
sure.
a hold of the first one, definitely do it. But as far as a double feature goes, I would recommend watching this and High Rise with Loki, the Tom Hiddleston.
I haven't seen it, but I would imagine that's a very different movie.
It's about a high rise where everything goes chaotic and goes to shit.
I thought that movie was about class struggle.
I haven't seen it yet, and I don't want to have anything spoiled, so let's leave the conversation there.
Yeah.
But if we're all going to throw in double features, I'll throw one in too, because why not? I think you should watch this and The Raid.
That's different.
Nice.
Very violent movies, both take place in a tower. I think they make it a great double feature.
Yeah.
You have crazy violence that's fun, crazy violence that's fun to watch.
No one's really having fun.
No one is having fun in the other one, but I'm having fun watching it. Whereas everyone's having fun in the other one. Great pairing. I just don't know which one to watch first. Maybe The Raid first, and then Gremlins 2. So it's like, oh, everything is awful, and everyone is dead. And then it's like, oh, everything's awful, and everyone's dead.
And imagine that you're watching Gremlins 2 with
Rama.
and Rama's like, that looks so much easier than what I just did.
Do you have any idea how many people I had to kill with a knife? in like 5
You guys
seconds.
just had to spray water on them and throw some electricity. Bastards.
Oh,
That
I have
was
such
so
a great idea for Gremlins 3 now.
Is it Gremlins 3, The Raid?
Versus Rama.
Yes.
Gremlins versus Rama. You'd have no idea what
He
to
has a
do.
flashlight now.
No, he'd be a wrecking ball with a flashlight. So I like the double features. I'm not even going to do a review system. We all liked it. We did double features. That works for me. Let's move into plugs. First and foremost, most important plug. Next week on Behind the Hype, Joe Dante week number 3. We're talking matinee. I have not seen it since I was a child, so I don't remember if it's good or funny or really even a lot about it other than John Goodman's in it and it's about a movie theater, I think. I really don't remember, but I remember loving the hell out of it, so I'm very excited to go back to it.
I think it was another movie I saw on television as a child, and all I remember is like a woman screaming and a dude carrying her through the movie theater.
I know it's got a lot of the Joe Dante tropes of like small town USA, very picturesque town, that sort of stuff. So I'm very excited to go back to it. I hope it holds up to my very lofty memory. And then Venture Brothers every Monday, Venture Bros every Monday. And I'll mention Samwise on Tuesdays and Damage Boost on Fridays because John can take care of the other one because that's his show and that's all of my plugs.
Yeah, and then there's Demon Days on Wednesday. We just resumed, and we're quite in the thick of a battle and more drama, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna record some intros for that thing when we get done recording this. Got to get my bullywug voice out of the basket of voices.
Brick Frog!
Brick Frog! And then Chewy.
Watch Superstore.
Superstore.
Superstore on NBC.
On Thursdays at a time.
Yeah, 7-8 Central, I'm sure.
Or on Hulu, whenever you want.
Watch on Hulu.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember.
So that's it. We've done it. We have Gremlins 2'd and plugged. So now all we have to do is say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Rambo!
Rambo.
Tight, tight, tight.
See you later, bozos.